Hello, and welcome to another episode of Morgan's Pop Talks, breaking down the latest in reality TV and pop culture. What is up? What is good? Wow, this week has been crazy. Wedding 2.0, Wedding 2.0, Wedding 2.0 is on Friday. It's officially wedding week. Can you believe it? I have 5 South Africans in my house right now. At this very moment, you're probably going to hear them. They're downstairs watching, I think it's like the Euro League or something like that. It's basically, you know how the World Cup happens every 4 years? There's another one that happens also every 4 years, but in between the World Cup. So it's really every 2 years. Listen, I've been getting schooled on these soccer tournaments, these golf tournaments. So that's what they're downstairs doing right now. But wow, Wedding 2.0 week is like full steam ahead. So much so that for today's podcast episode, I have no notes. No notes. We're just going wherever the wind blows us. I have not even had time to sit down and open my laptop to do anything besides last minute panic Amazon orders, you know? I've been Amazoning mini fans. I've been Amazoning, what else have I been ordering? Makeup bags, makeup wipes, Advil, hand lotion, hand sanitizer, breath mints, batteries for the mini fans. And it's all going to be over on Friday. Can I just say, I'm so happy that come Friday night, the credit card that has been continuing to be swiped is going to cease to be swiped. I'm going to get into Wedding 2.0 at the end of the episode because I know some of y'all don't want me to sit here and talk about myself for 45 minutes, but there has been some drama with Wedding 2.0. I'm going to tell you all about it. And like I said, this is not going to be your typical episode where we do a pop 3 and then we do the deep dive. I'm just going to talk about everything that I've noticed in the past 7 days. Let's start with Kaitlyn Bristowe, Zach Clark, Kat Stickler, and Jason Tartick all being at this same NHL game. First, this started when a podcast clip came out last week where Kaitlyn Bristowe finally, I guess you could say, told the world what her beef is with Jason Tartick. Since they broke up, which has been almost a year now, she's always like liking these cryptic things and posting cryptic stories and whatever and saying like, if you only knew, and I felt betrayed, but didn't really go into any of the details of that. Well, now we're learning a little bit more what happened for Kaitlyn to feel betrayed. This was the story. Going into this relationship, Kaitlyn said she didn't want to be with another influencer and that Jason assured her, I'm not going to be an influencer. I work at a bank. And this is a skimmed down version. I work at a bank. Well, Kaitlyn said something a little bit inappropriate about her and Jason and their sex life on one of her podcasts. And so, of course, when you search Jason and Kaitlyn, something that was inappropriate popped up on the internet. Jason's employer came to him and said, listen, if this is the type of stuff that's going to be put out about you in the headlines and what have you, you cannot work for us. So they had to have a come to Jesus meeting, I guess, and decide, okay, what's going to happen here? Jason left the job because, I mean, I obviously don't know what they said in the conversation, but I can assume that it was something along the lines of Kaitlyn saying like, this is my job. This is what I do. This is who I am. Like, I don't really have a choice. I mean, sure, she could like edit herself down, but that's not very on brand for Kaitlyn. So I feel like they probably agreed together that Jason was going to leave this job. So that's when Jason started dipping his toes into the influencer life. Brand deals, writing books. And she said the nail in the coffin was him wanting to do a podcast. She explicitly asked him, please don't do a podcast. And she said, long story short, he did. He ended up doing that, Trading Secrets. It's a financial podcast. And the way that she was putting it out there, he was very timid about bringing that up. And it was kind of like she had to poke and prod to find out that he was doing this podcast. So I got to be 100% honest with you, keeping it 100p. When I was watching this clip, and of course it was broken up into like 5 little clips because it was on Instagram, and I was scrolling through each clip, I was getting more and more aggravated as each clip rolled by. And of course, now that I've had a couple days to mull it over, I have a lot of different thoughts about this. I think when you really boil it down, she said, pick me or pick this podcast. And he picked the podcast. She said, he told me that he felt like I was stunting his growth financially and, in his career. And I can't disagree with that argument from him. I mean, if your partner who just loses their job because of something that you said comes to you and says, hey, I'm thinking of doing this, it's like, what's the root of the reason behind not being supportive? Is it jealousy? Maybe. I mean, that's kind of what it feels like, right? And I know that it's different, but like I try to put myself in other people's shoes. Y'all know that about me. And I'm a podcaster. I'm an entertainment correspondent. I'm a host. I do all of these different things. And people, I don't know if you can hear them talking about one of David's groomsmen just walked through the door, literally from England. So the world keeps spinning. We got 100 plates spinning right now. But anyways, I am all of these things, but the people love David. There's no denying that the people love David. Like anytime I post him on my Instagram story, they're like, oh my gosh, we love him. He's so funny. His accent. Oh my God, he's so cute, which totally agree, 100%. There have been conversations where maybe David and I do something together in the future. And I feel like I could have pulled a Kaitlyn Bristowe and been like, no, this is my thing. But I had the exact opposite reaction. I was like, oh my gosh, I would love that. It would give us like automatic quality time. The people love David. I love just chit-chatting with David. It's good for both of us. It would be making us more money, the both of us more money, right? It has the opportunity to grow into something different. So I just can't understand, I think, the concept of like trying to compete with your partner. And that was my initial thought. I was really just kind of disappointed. It seemed very selfish. But then I stepped back and I thought about it for a while. I thought about it over the weekend. And it's one of those things where if you set this expectation going into a relationship where she says, I don't want to be with an influencer, and then slowly but surely he starts to become an influencer, that might rub her the wrong way. That might feel like the betrayal. It's like the podcast was the end of the road, but all the while she was like, oh, things are changing. Things change in a relationship. So it's like, do you love this person or do you love the way that this person's life is right in this very moment? You get what I'm saying? I don't know. I have a hard time seeing it from that side where, she's the only person that's allowed to be on the internet and have a podcast, especially when the podcasts are so different. His is a financial podcast. Hers is like lifestyle and comedy and interviews and all of these things. I think another layer to it, though, is that Kaitlyn might feel like people use her for clout, So she might look at this and think, oh, well, Jason, he's using me to further his career. And like, what do I get out of it? I don't know. It's just very weird to me. And then after that, all 4 of them are in the same building watching this hockey game. Kat and Jason, Kaitlyn and Zach. And people have been saying this too. They're like, well, Zach has a podcast and he does have a podcast, but he's definitely not as much in the influencer life as, what's his name? Jason. And I feel like Jason dating Kat has obviously sent Kaitlyn into a little bit of a spiral, because it's just furthering that narrative that you're becoming all the things that you promised me you didn't want. So, I mean, I think at the end of the day, we can look back and say it's probably a good thing that they're not together, because you should be supportive of your partner. And that's what I think about that. Let's talk about Danielle Olivera leaving Summer House. Oh, of course. I thought I pulled up the statement. Let me pull up the statement, but y'all already knew that Danielle Olivera is not going to be back for season 9 of Summer House. This is what she wrote on Instagram. Hello, my sweet loves. I wanted to share that I've come to the heartbreaking decision to not return as a full-time cast member on the upcoming season of Summer House. Obviously, this decision didn't come without a tremendous amount of thought. Ultimately, I just need to trust my gut. If I can't put 100% of myself into filming genuinely and authentically, it really doesn't feel right doing it in a full-time capacity. The network, production, my cast, and especially all of you deserve that. Right now, I need to protect and prioritize the things that matter to me most, my company, my people, and of course, myself. And she says, I'm so grateful, yada, yada, yada. She says, supported whatever decision I chose to reach. Fortunate enough to take a step back at season 4, and it worked well. Then she says, however I'm involved this summer, you can bet I'll be rooting for another incredible season from my Summer House fan. My goodness. Season 9, you guys, best of luck. And sending so much love, Danny girl. Obviously, everybody's asking the question, did Danielle choose to leave Summer House on her own, or was she trying to get ahead of a potential Danielle Olivera got fired from Summer House headline, right? I don't know. I'm not in the boardroom. I feel like I have a very hard time believing that somebody is going to quit a reality TV show that they film on the weekend. You know, I feel like it's different if you're a housewife and, you know, they're following you throughout the entire week. They're coming into your home. It's your kids. It's your husband. It's all of these things. But a summer share house on the weekend where you can still really do, like, honestly, what do you have to do to show up as 100% yourself in a show like Summer House? You show up to the weekend, you hang out with your friends, you party, you cause a little drama. And like, it's just, the math just isn't mathing for me. But I personally can't say that I'm surprised that Danielle is not coming back, being asked back, you know, whatever it is for the next season of Summer House, because I feel like the writing was kind of on the wall. She was not really involved in season 8. And when you look back to season 7, what was the major storyline? It was the fact that her and Lindsay had this huge falling out. You know, the besties were no longer friends. Danielle obviously had a lot of questions surrounding Carl and Lindsay's engagement. Looking back, I think probably rightfully so. But the fact that we didn't get any storyline about her reconnecting with Lindsay was a big red flag to me. I mean, how do you go from that being the main storyline in one season to it not even being a thought in the very next season? So I kind of felt like they were starting to send her off into the sunset. And when you look back at this season, it's like, you know, what can we say about Danielle? She talked about Balloon Guy and the CEO and founder. And I think another big red flag was the fact that her confrontation with Paige about Craig was not mentioned in the reunion at all. I'm like sitting there thinking, okay, they don't care to follow up on any Danielle storylines whatsoever. That's not looking good. And then however many days later, we get this statement from Danielle. So how do I feel? Y'all don't need to ask. Y'all don't need to ask. You know, we're elated. Sorry. I mean, sometimes that's karma. Let's talk about Love Island USA. Come on. USA. Love Island USA is insanity. It's so crazy. And I'm so happy because we've been on this road with Love Island UK, always just pummeling Love Island USA into the ground. But Love Island USA is knocking it out of the park. First, let me just say, Ariana being the host is chef's kiss. She's actually doing an incredible job. And I feel like, you know, this is something that her other castmates on Vanderpump Rules were saying, but now we're actually like seeing it. And we saw it with Dancing with the Stars, but I didn't get the chance to see her on Broadway, maybe next time. But where she got these opportunities because of the scandal, but she's kept them because she's good at them. Like, she is a really good host. She looks phenomenal. And what did I tell you? I was talking about Love Island, what was it, last week? And I talked about her inflection, how sometimes she goes up and up and up, and she hasn't been doing it at all. So I feel like they told her, girl, watch it, and then we're good. I'm just going to talk about like a couple of the big points here. Leah and Rob and Andrea, this little love triangle that makes my head spin. First and foremost, this is a PSA to all the girls out there. Never fight over a guy who wears overalls. on different occasions. Never fight over a guy who wears overalls with no shirt underneath it. That's occasion number 1. Occasion number 2, never fight over a guy who wears overalls to bed. To bed. Denim overalls to bed. In soul ties. It's immediate no for me. Rob and Leah, I think they're both kind of toxic. And it was wild. The way that this whole thing has gone down has been so wild, because when Rob and Leah broke up, we were all looking at Rob sideways like, ugh, like, meh, not a big fan of Rob. And we were like, oh, Queen Leah. And then the very next episode, we were like, oh, Leah, what is you doing? You know? So Andrea comes in and she immediately hits it off with Rob, and they're in a couple, and Leah's like all bent out of shape about it. And then we get the public vote where we get the 3 least popular couples, and which had the Leah and Rob stuff happen sooner, I feel like they would have been in the bottom 3, but they kind of scooted past it. But anyways, it's also pouring outside. And you know that anytime it's pouring outside, I have to sing Hilary Duff. I'm coming clean. My mind is everywhere right now. Andrea, Leah, and Rob. So I feel like Rob is that guy that like loves the next shiny object that he just wants to grab, and he wants the girl to like be head over heels in love with him. And that's what happened with both Leah and Andrea. But then we get to the fire pit dumping, and they do the plot twist where the girls have to kick off the girl, which I think is a phenomenal plot twist, because had you left the decision up to anybody else, we all would have known what would have happened. The boys would have sent home Janae because she doesn't have any love interest at the moment. And the girls would have sent home Hakeem because he also doesn't have any love interest in the moment. But the girls are like, no, Janae's our girl. She's staying. So it comes down to Nicole and Andrea. And everybody knows why Andrea was dumped from the island. It's because they wanted a single Rob. They wanted a single Rob, specifically Leah wanted a single Rob to try to weasel her way back in. And at first we were like, she can't be that diabolical, right? Like, she can't be that diabolical. But turns out she's that diabolical. We're getting a hailstorm outside right now because even God thinks that Leah is diabolical. So that's all kind of churning behind the scenes. Am I going to have to go in my basement? I think like we're in the middle of a tornado warning. This is the most unhinged episode of Morgan's Pop Talks ever. Okay, and Rob is saying, I'm leaving. Good job, guys. We got 3 of us gone. And we're like, he's not going anywhere. This is his one time to be on reality TV, to be the influencer, like to get a cargo pants campaign when he gets off the show. He's not going anywhere. And he immediately folded. And you know what? 12 hours later, he's like cuddling up back to Leah until he finds out that Leah was not, in fact, sitting the vote out, taking a back seat, that she was like, Sparta, you know, in the front, taking the charge for Andrea to be dumped. So I feel like that's going to go up in smoke for a second time in a row. Then you have Kendall and Nicole. And you know what's really disappointing me about Love Island USA in this moment is every time that you start to get a favorite, i.e. Kendall, they disappoint you. Kendall was like so great up until this moment. He was hyping all the girls up. He was just being a gentleman. We were like in it with Kendall. And then he starts playing these mind games with Nicole, which Nicole is interested in both Kendall and the new bombshell, Miguel, which it's like, hello, it's Love Island. You guys, you've known each other for 5 seconds. So why not? Kendall's playing all these mind games with her, like, oh, I'm going to pull back and I'm not going to cuddle with you. And in the dancing challenge where, you know, they have to stick or twist, Kendall decides, oh, I'm going to twist. I'm going to dump Nicole. And it's like, okay, you're doing this not because you don't like Nicole. You really like her. You're doing this so she comes chasing and running after you and like, oh, please, no, Kendall, forgive. And I'm just like, how old are we? And then I remember they're like 24. And I'm like, oh, okay. Well, that actually makes sense because I would probably do something toxic like that at age 24 as well. But it's like, Kendall, we were rooting for you. We were all rooting for you. And this is how you repay us? Get it together, Kendall. So last but certainly not least, I want to talk about Serena and Cordell. This is another one where to me, Cordell is just like this little baby angel, and I don't want anybody to break his heart. And Serena has broken little baby angel Cordell's heart not once, but twice. And, Serena's whole thing is I take things slow. It takes a while for me to develop feelings. No, it doesn't take you a while to develop the tingles. You know what I'm saying? She doesn't have the tingles for Cordell. And that's okay. You need the tingles in a relationship, but I think she's just making excuses. And I love Serena too. I feel like she's just like a cool chick. I want to hang out with her. She's very down to earth. But she also decided to twist and not stick with Cordell. And Cordell is up there like crying a river, JT style, on the balcony. And he's like, man, I look so stupid. And I'm like, no, you don't, Cordell. You look like a sweet baby angel. The thing of it is that, like, and this is no shade, when you compare people like Cordell and Kendall to like Coy at the beginning of the season, right? These big, tall, muscular guy. It's like Kendall and Cordell are a different type of hot. You know what I mean? Like Cordell is always going to be, and Kendall really, like the nice guys, where the nice guys finish last. And it is what it is. But I just hated seeing Cordell get his heart broken again. And you don't want to sit there and be like, oh, well, Serena kind of just got back with Cordell so that she could extend her shelf life on the show and potentially find love with another bombshell. But that kind of seems like what happened a little bit. All right, let's move on to Kenya Moore and what's happening with her. She's officially out at the Real Housewives of Atlanta for season 16, following her suspension over unveiling sexually explicit posters of newbie Brittany 80. So according to TMZ, Kenya wasn't fired from the show. Bravo's leaving the door open for a possible return, but the situation was investigated, and Kenya Moore was found to be in violation of Bravo's code of conduct. So this is what Kenya said on her Instagram. Let me see. She says that she's grateful for fan support, but noted her conscience is clean. She said, so many false claims hiding behind anonymous sources, all this conversation and no facts being reported. If claim or a source was valid, would they need to hide? So she, I guess, is suspended. And there were rumors that she was suspended last week. She got on this Instagram live and was like, I'm going live to address the rumors. And then she didn't do anything. She gave us like a little house tour or whatever. So I was like, okay, if you weren't suspended, you would get on that Amazon Live. I watch Kyle Richards too much. You would get on that Instagram Live and you would say, I'm not suspended. But she didn't do that. So to me, I was like, oh, the writing is kind of on the wall. So honestly, I've kept the story at arm's length because if it is true and it played out like it's playing out in the headlines, I would be very disappointed. If, Kenya showed explicit photos of a newbie at a filmed event, I just feel like that is like so just disgusting, honestly. But Kenya is giving another side of the story. I've seen pictures online where it's not necessarily like an explicit photo, but it's like a poster with like paragraphs on it. So I don't know if she was like exposing her in some way. It had to be pretty serious for them to pull Kenya Moore off the show, because it's like between her and Portia, who is back for this season, like that right there is like your bait for your audience. People are really into Kenya and people are really into Portia. So without her, it's like, I don't know. And, like historically, Atlanta is one of the best franchises when they're good. They are so good. But I even told you last season, I stopped watching halfway through. And it's like now knowing this going into the next season, I don't know if I'm all that excited about it either. So I don't know. Okay, before I get into Wedding Palooza, I want to talk about Travis Kelce on stage with Taylor Swift. And y'all know I have been a supporter of Travis Kelce and Taylor Swift. I really liked what Serena said on Love Island the other day. She said, I'm a supporter of women's rights and wrongs. And I'm like, I'm stealing that because I am a supporter of women's rights and wrongs. And in my personal opinion, Taylor Swift inviting Travis Kelce onto the stage was a wrong choice. And I know y'all are going to come for me for this. And I just need to know. I've talked to some people about this and they say, Morgan, that's the whole point. So maybe give me some grace. Give me grace, y'all. Give me some grace because I'm coming to you with love and light. But like, they're just cringy. And they both are cringy by themselves at certain points as well. And when you put that man, that 6'5" man, up on stage in a tailcoat, carrying her around like a little puppet, what am I missing? Please, somebody please tell me what I'm missing because I don't want to be left out. I have Swiftie FOMO. Like, I want to be in it. I want to be obsessed. I want to be digging through all the clues. I mean, hello, I run a pop culture account. I want those things. It's just like not in me. I just want it to be. So please tell me how to get there, y'all. I will welcome any advice with open arms. But that's another one. Like, if I see something and I'm just like, oh gosh, I just ignore it. And I was fully ignoring Travis Kelce on stage with Taylor Swift. And, you know, I had somebody write this comment to me the other day on Instagram saying like, oh, Morgan, I don't know why you're posting about Taylor Swift when she's been pretty adamant that she doesn't like the media talking about her. And I'm like, okay, if that's the case, you do not bring Travis Kelce in a tailcoat up on stage with you. So like, I don't even know if Taylor Swift has ever actually said that. Has she? I don't know. I mean, you would be making different decisions, I think, if you didn't want everybody talking about your relationship. Like, I don't know, not bringing him out on stage in the middle of 50,000 fans. I don't know. That's just what I think. That's just what I think. All right. I think that's all I have on the pop culture front for you for the day. But let's talk about Wedding Palooza because as you know, Wedding 2.0 is on Friday. Can I tell you how I entered the week? This is how I entered the week. His parents coming over from South Africa and his brother. We found out last week that his brother was coming, which up until now, his brother hasn't been able to come. Last second, he's able to come. So I've been like running around trying to get a tux ordered for him and to guess his sizes because I don't know his sizes. I mean, he took his measurements, but like, have you ever tried to measure yourself? And it's like waist 719. And I'm like, that can't be right. Happens all the time. So anyways, went, ordered his tux, was like, I hope it gets here. So that's like little problem number one. Then his parents start to fly over from South Africa and they had to go to 4 airports. Okay. It's Durban to Johannesburg, Johannesburg to Newark, Newark to Cleveland. How many airports is that? 3? I don't know. No, it's 4. Anyways, they started off the trip. Flight 1 from Durban to Johannesburg delayed. So, I mean, if you know anything, that means they're going to miss every single one of their connections to the United States. And like, David's parents are on the older side, like 70s. So I'm like, I can't even run through the airport at age 31 without having a full-on meltdown, panic attack, asking one of the stewardesses to like show me where to go. Where do I get my bag again? You know, like losing it. I'm like, oh gosh, we're in for it. But thankfully they made it without a hitch. And they're here like guns blazing. I'm like, I thought you guys would be so tired. There's a 7-hour time difference, but they're like kicking it. They're kicking it in my living room right now. Then his Uncle Bernie came over from England. That was all cool. My bridesmaids, who I love and adore so much, my 2 closest friends, one of them gave birth on Friday. Okay. On Friday. Another one is 6.5 months pregnant. And I'm like, I can't do this without my girls, but obviously they're at a different phase of life and like their families come before my wedding, no doubt about it. But we've been spiraling a little bit. So my bestie, she had her baby on Friday, healthy little baby, cute as a little muffin. So praise God for the gift of life. But she's like, girl, my dress don't fit. And I'm like, oh no. And then my other bestie who's 6.5 months pregnant was like, girl, my dress don't fit. And I was like, oh no, what are we going to do? We have 5 days to get a dress. But thankfully, not sponsored, emailed my contact at Azazi because that's where I got my girls' dresses. And would you know they overnighted something like that for both of them? Ordered it Monday at 3 p.m. It was both dresses were here 12 o'clock on Tuesday. I'm like, there is a God. And he is looking out for this wedding 2.0. He is just making ways where there seems to be no way. Hallelujah. Hallelujah. So Now we're blending the families, right? And it's just definitely a culture shock here for David's family. In South Africa, they have a thing called load shedding, right? Where there's not enough power to power the entire country for 24 hours a day. So it's like, depending on what level they're at a particular moment, power shut off for the entire country. When I was there, it was 4 hours a day between like 2 and 6, perfect time, right? So like David's mom is like running around our houses, making sure every light is turned off at all times because she's like, you guys, the power. And we're like, Janice, it's okay. It's okay. The power is good. We're going to be good with the power. So what else happens? His friend just got here. One of his groomsmen just got here. Another one lands tonight at 11:30. His brother lands tomorrow at 1:00. My girlies are coming in from out of town. Rehearsal dinner tomorrow, 6:30. And then wedding 2.0. Wedding 2.0. We're doing it. I started writing my vows. What a weird experience, you guys. Writing your own vows. Y'all didn't warn me about that. Like, it's a weird feeling because I'm like affectionate and lovey-dovey and mushy-gushy in private, but like I don't like showing those kinds of emotions in front of 150 people. And I know you guys are like, well, you don't have to do this traditional, but we did want to like save some moments for Wedding 2.0. So like, you guys know we technically got married on a beach in October, but we did the traditional vows. So we're like, okay, well, how can we make this one different? We can write our vows. Obviously, we're having a bridal party. I haven't changed my last name legally yet. I'm going to do so now. I haven't worn a wedding band. So just little things like that. But I mean, not to give anything away because I'm not going to sit here and tell you guys my vows, but to think about where David and I started. I mean, 13 years ago in West Virginia, two little oddballs out running around, falling in love. Like I fell in love with him at first sight. Call me corny, whatever, what have you. It's the truth. I did. Falling in love with him at first sight, only being together for like 3 months because he was moving back to South Africa, to not seeing each other for 7 years, to literally like getting a second chance at love. It's beautiful. It's beautiful. It's beautiful. I also sat in on I'm having a piano player and a violin player, and she was like practicing what I'm going to walk down the aisle to, which is, I can't help falling in love with you, the violin. And like literally the first stroke of the strings, my mom started sobbing. I was like, Mom, this is just a practice. Like nobody's even here. I'm the only other person in the building and she's already sobbing, but I was too. So I'm not going to shade her for it. That, and you know what else is the bane of my existence at the current moment? Steaming. Is steaming not the worst thing in the world? I have steamed so many tablecloths in the past 4 days, so many drapes in the past 4 days. I'm losing it. I was thinking the whole time while I was steaming those tablecloths, there's a Taylor Swift song called Death by a Thousand Cuts, and she should write one called Death by Steaming. Too many things, because that's where I am at the current moment. Okay. I'm sorry, you guys, that this was all over the place. I'm trying my best, but the wheels are falling off on this wagon currently at the moment. So I'm just doing the best I can. I hope it entertains you in the slightest bit. Also, before we go, because I'm going to tell you, we got a lot of 5-star boop boop ratings last week, which really made me happy. But did you guys see the boop boop that happened on Love Island USA? I was like, Nicole, I think somebody boop booped a nose. Somebody went up to a guy and went boop boop to their nose. And I was like, we got to get that girl on MPT immediately because she already knows. She already knows us. She already is one of us out there boop booping people's noses. I don't recommend it like for you and your significant other if you're just like getting to know somebody, but leave a 5-star review, a little boop boop, a little love you like a sis. I think I'm going to do a pop off next week. We have to, right? To talk about all things weddings, but I don't know what I'm doing tomorrow. So I got to check my schedule and I'll get back to you. But thank you for being patient with me this week. I've like so wanted to talk about all this stuff, but I just can't. because like I said, the wheels are falling off. So send me some T's and P's that I get through the rest of it. We're in the final stretch and it feels really good. 2 years in the making for this wedding, to have all of our friends and family together. It's going to be a dream come true. Okay, gotta go before I start crying. Love you like a sis. Bye.